Have you ever had that moment? You glance at the clock on your phone, the microwave, whatever, and it's exactly 11:11.
Mm.
And you get that tiny jolt of recognition, a little spark that just makes you pause.
Yeah, maybe you whisper, make a wish, or
Mhm.
you just get this feeling,
Exactly, this unshakable sense that the universe is offering you a secret, perfectly timed handshake.
That experience, which feels like a tiny miracle just interrupting your day.
Mhm.
That's really the core of what we're getting into in this deep dive.
We're talking about angel numbers.
We are. Those repeating sequences like 111, 222, and of course the big one, 11.11. For a lot of people, these aren't just numerical quirks.
Right.
They're seen as cosmic text messages, little packets of focused energy or guidance that show up on the most mundane things: clocks, receipts, license plates.
So it's the universe using the language of math, of vibration, to signal that you're in alignment.
Precisely.
But I think most people stop right there. They see it, they go, huh, isn't that weird? And then move on. They don't know what to do with it.
And that's our mission today. We want to move past just simple coincidence and really unlock the practical, actionable framework for using 11.11.
Yeah, we've distilled the sources that describe this whole phenomenon not as some random luck, but as a secret key, an energetic gateway to, well, accelerate your desires into reality.
Okay, so let's just unpack this blueprint immediately. Let's start with the power that's locked inside the numbers themselves.
In numerology, right?
Exactly. In numerology, the number 11 it's not a base number. It's classified as a master number.
What does that mean, a master number?
It means it vibrates with this really intense energy of intuition, of elimination. It's associated with accelerated manifestation. Think of it like plugging into a higher voltage socket.
So when you see that energy doubled, when you see 11.11, it's not just twice as strong, it's, what, exponential?
Exponentially more powerful. That's a perfect way to put it. When it's doubled, mystics call that a portal moment.
A portal. A fleeting window where your mental and your energetic focus just holds this magnified creative juice. And the visual symmetry of it is so important.
The 4 identical digits.
Yes. You see 4 digits, all the same, forming this symmetrical visual doorway. 2 pillars on the left, 2 on the right. You literally feel like you're standing at a threshold ready to walk through.
And this is where the mathematical elegance of it all just really shines for me. The sequence is built on this perfect paradox.
Go on.
Well, if you take the most common route and you add the digits 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, you get 4.
Right. And 4 is the number of stability, of structure, earthly manifestation. It's what grounds your intention in the physical world.
But then, and get this, if you multiply them, 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, you get 1.
Unity, source energy, wholeness.
Exactly. So the sequence itself is this energetic signature that perfectly embeds unity within multiplicity. It links heaven, or source energy, directly to Earth, to physical reality. It's literally the blueprint for co-creation.
What's fascinating to me is how these ancient blueprints seem to perfectly match the digital sequence we see today. We're talking about this 4-column fingerprint that's found not just on our clocks, but it echoes through history.
Absolutely. I mean, they didn't have digital clocks, of course, but the concept of these dual, powerful energy columns appears again and again.
Like where?
Well, think about the paired obelisks that stood in front of sacred temples in Egyptian architecture.
Okay, yeah.
Or the spiritual lore around the 4 pillars of the New Jerusalem. Even the structure of the Native American medicine wheel.
Yeah.
It suggests that 11.11 isn't some quirk of modern tech.
It's an ancient archetype.
It's an ancient archetype of alignment that just found a new home, a new vessel in the digital age.
That's a really beautiful thought, but let's bring it back to the present. I know the curious part of our listener wants to know, how do we leap from temples and obelisks to, the quantum field? How does this mystical concept actually hold up to the skepticism of modern science?
We can actually bridge that gap by looking at physics. The fundamental truth that quantum physics keeps reinforcing is that everything vibrates. Everything. And a frequency is just a number.
So when you see a repeating number,
you are brushing up against a resonant frequency that is echoing something inside of you. You're not just passively seeing the number. You are, in a sense, tuning the cosmic radio together because that number matches your internal energy at that precise moment.
So the signal isn't random at all. It's personalized feedback. It's tailored to your current state.
Exactly. And this is where we can bring in Carl Jung's idea of synchronicity.
Meaningful coincidences.
Meaningful coincidences that don't have an obvious causal link, but they feel so intimately connected. You look up at 11.11 just as you finalize a huge decision.
Or a profound insight just hits you right as the clock strikes.
Right. The number confirms the thought. It affirms that your internal dialogue is perfectly aligned with some broader intelligent pattern in the universe.
Okay, but I have to play the skeptic here, because this is a deep dive. Confirmation bias has to play a role, right? If I start looking for 11.11, I'm just going to see it more often.
Of course.
So how do we know this isn't just a very, elegant form of wishful thinking? Where is the evidence that the signal is truly personalized and not just our brain filtering for what it wants to see?
That is the critical question. And the sources, they acknowledge confirmation bias, but they argue that the genuine power lies in the fusion of that focus with the synchronicity.
Right, fusion. Okay.
So yes, confirmation bias is the filter, but genuine synchronicity is the gift. The fact that the moment of 11.11 so often coincides with an emotional peak or really clear intention, as opposed to just, when you're doing random chores,
Yeah.
that's what distinguishes it.
So it's like an interactive scavenger hunt.
It is. It's orchestrated by consciousness, where the very act of focusing the bias actually attracts the pattern, the synchronicity.
There's also that theoretical layer that I find so fascinating, the idea that if reality is, as some quantum theorists propose, a hologram, like a projected reality.
Then 11.11 could be thought of as a repeating line of code.
Right. And when you notice it, you're essentially giving the instruction set for that hologram to upgrade your personal reality settings.
You're setting a new interference pattern in consciousness. You're activating a new possibility. But, and here's the rub, this is where 90% of people get stuck.
Okay.
You can know the code, you can see the time, but if your inner energy field is congested, the signal gets blocked.
And that's maybe the most crucial part of this entire deep dive. The sources are so clear on this. Manifestation stalls because of internal resistance. Not bad luck, not external forces.
It's all internal. And the problem is what the sources call invisible saboteurs.
Invisible saboteurs.
These are deep, often inherited, limiting beliefs or unresolved emotions. Things like chronic worry, suppressed anger, or that belief that success requires constant struggle.
Or, I'm only valuable when I'm sacrificing for others.
That's a huge one. It's the energetic equivalent of trying to drive a Ferrari with the parking brake on.
You're not going anywhere.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
All that emotional congestion, old grief, lingering fear, envy, it creates what we call a vibrational waterfall. This low-frequency waterfall just drowns out the high-frequency 11.11 signal. It makes it impossible to tune the radio. We have to clear the static first.
So if I'm constantly worried about money, am I actively blocking that 11.11 signal? Is that why daily life can feel so heavy sometimes?
Yes, because worry is focused creation, but it's focused on the negative outcome. To break that cycle, the sources give these neurobiological hygiene techniques, and they start with the body.
How so?
When you think about an intention, just notice your body's reaction. Maybe your chest tightens when you visualize abundance, or you get a knot in your stomach when you think about leaving your job.
And that's when we use somatic dialogue. Can you tell us practically how a listener uses those 3 steps? Pause, presence, and permission.
Right. So if you feel, let's say, shame, somatic dialogue stops you from immediately trying to rationalize it away. Pause just means stopping the thought train. Bring your attention to the physical place of that feeling, the tight throat, the heavy chest.
Okay. Then presence.
Presence means just observing it, like you're watching a cloud drift by. You're not trying to fix it or push it away.
And then permission. What does it actually sound like in my head to allow that sensation to speak?
It means removing the judgment. The feeling isn't bad, it's just information. So permission sounds like, I see you, shame. You are allowed to be here for a moment.
And when you give it permission to exist,
you reclaim the energy it was using to hide, that vulnerability, that acceptance. That is the very first step to dissolving that invisible saboteur.
we also talked about emotional alchemy.
Yes. So instead of suppressing tough feelings, you allow them to move through you. Embracing the shadow, acknowledging the jealousy, the fear of success, that reclaims all that locked up energy and turns it into fuel.
So instead of just being stuck in jealousy, you can ask what part of that success you actually desire.
Exactly, you transmute it. And finally, there's a really powerful tool for clearing the densest energy of all, which is resentment. That is forgiveness.
Holding resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. It just consumes so much mental RAM.
It does. And the Hawaiian practice of Ho'oponopono is highly recommended in the sources for clearing that space. It's not just reciting words. It's an energetic cleaning directed at yourself.
What are the words?
You repeat, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. You're saying I'm sorry to yourself for holding on to that toxic feeling. You're asking yourself for forgiveness for the pain it caused you.
Yeah.
And that clears the space for high-frequency abundance to finally come in.
So once that energetic slate is clean, then we move into the ritual itself. This is the moment you merge your cleared high-frequency energy with that 11.11 portal.
Turning your architectural blueprint, your intention, into a manifested house. This framework has 4 really precise phases, and it's best to start a few minutes before 11.11 actually strikes.
Okay, phase 1.
Phase 1 is grounding. This is all about anchoring your awareness in the present moment, pulling yourself out of past regrets or future anxieties.
What's a simple way to do that?
Imagine roots extending from the soles of your feet deep into the earth. Then use your breath. A slow exhale is key. So breathe in for 4 counts and out for 6. That extended exhale deliberately calms your nervous system.
It shifts you into that state required for receiving inspiration.
It does. Then phase 2 is raising. You have to elevate your frequency, and you have to do it instantly. The fastest elevator there is gratitude.
So just think of something you're grateful for.
Not just think. Feel it. Recall a moment of profound, simple joy. A child's laughter, the taste of a perfect cup of coffee. That intentional recall generates what we call heart-based coherence. Your heart and your mind literally start beating in sync.
And from that high vibe state, we go to phase 3, directing. This is the statement of intent.
And you have to use the language of the universe, which means present tense, I am, I have.
Not I hope or I wish I didn't have this debt.
No, affirmative certainty and rich multisensory detail. Visualization refines your aim. You want to picture the sounds of the celebration, the texture of the new opportunity, the smell of success.
Okay, and then phase 4, this is the one that's hardest for so many people. Releasing.
It is. This is where you surrender your attachment to the outcome. You visualize your intention as, say, a glowing orb, and you watch it lift skyward, merging with infinite potential, and you just whisper, and so it is.
Why is that detachment so critical, and why is it so hard?
It's hard because most people confuse the focus of phase 3 with the control of phase 4. Attachment is gripping the steering wheel so tightly you can't actually navigate.
In surrender,
Surrender, in this context, is sacred confidence. It's saying, I've done my work, I've cleaned the channel, I've placed my order with the highest version of reality, now I trust it will arrive in perfect form and timing.
You have to release the how and the when.
Yes, and when you do, you give the universe the room it needs to deliver something even better than you could have controlled.
That distinction focus versus control, that's huge. Okay, let's move to the ultimate proof of concept. The people who actually use this system successfully across the 4 pillars of life.
Yes, it's so important to see how reliable this is. Let's start with the career and finance pillar and the story of Marcus, who was a skeptical engineer.
Right, so Marcus was technically brilliant, but felt totally invisible at his firm. His invisible saboteur was that belief that good work should speak for itself.
It rarely does. So he started noting 11.11, and he began aligning his focus with the affirmation, I am seen, valued, and essential.
And what happened?
One evening, he just woke up spontaneously at 11:11 p.m. He said he felt this weird compulsion to check the corporate Slack channel, only to find the entire system had crashed.
Wow.
He spotted a unique bug, worked quickly, and ended up saving the company over $1 million in lost transactions. This wasn't luck. It was the universe rewarding his new state of alertness.
The portal didn't give him a new job. It gave him the opportunity to prove the value he had already affirmed internally.
And he got a leadership role almost immediately. It really shows that 11.11 rewards alertness and action.
Okay, what about rewriting biological timing? We have Naomi's story and the health and fertility pillar.
Naomi and her wife had struggled for years to conceive. They had faced so much disappointment. Their emotional waterfall was grief and the fear that their dream just wasn't going to happen.
So they committed to clearing that energetic space.
They did. They started meditating every single day at 11.11 p.m., visualizing the soul of their child entering their life. They used phase 3, directing, to build this incredibly powerful sensory image of their child's presence.
So they were removing the resistance, the fear.
Exactly. By replacing fear with this focused, high-frequency love, they dissolved the emotional blocks that medical treatment just couldn't touch. And against all medical odds, Naomi conceived naturally.
That's incredible.
But get this. The sequence was undeniable. Her daughter Willow was born precisely on November 11th, at 11:11 a.m.
No way. That's profound. A perfect alignment of the portal and physical reality.
Truly.
Okay, finally, let's look at the self-worth pillar with Priya, the marketing analyst.
Priya was highly successful, but she struggled with guilt, with claiming credit for her own brilliant ideas. Her limiting belief was tied to this idea that success required quiet sacrifice, not visibility.
So she committed to affirming her self-worth and visibility at 11:11 every day.
She did, and she focused specifically on phase 4, releasing the need to hide.
So how did the portal open up for her?
During a huge, high-stakes presentation to the board, she was mid-sentence, powerfully advocating for her data, when the clock on the meeting room wall flipped to 11:11.
Oh, that's amazing.
That little jolt of recognition just solidified her conviction. It gave her this boost of internal confidence right when she needed it most. It led directly to her proposal being accepted and then a promotion and a double salary increase.
So her story really proves that self-worth, when it's aligned at the portal, is the key that unlocks that external validation.
It is.
The big takeaway here, then, is that 11:11 is not some one-off lottery ticket. It's the daily metronome for your life. It's a constant invitation.
Absolutely. Mastery is achieved when you start treating every conscious breath as a mini portal moment, not just that fleeting minute on a digital clock.
Yeah.
You're tuning yourself to a higher frequency constantly.
Which makes you constantly available for guidance and for these synchronicities.
Mm-hmm.
And as you move forward with this, I'd say keep a journal, a vigilant one. Note the smaller microsynchronicities. The perfect parking spot, the timely text message, the song lyric that answers a question you didn't even say out loud.
Those are just as important as the grand miracles because they prove the coherence of your entire energetic field.
We've spent this whole deep dive focused on what you can manifest. But here's the final provocative thought we want to leave you with.
If 11.11 is the key to creating your dream life, what question will life ask you after your wish comes true?
In other words, once you have the money, the health, the clarity, what legacy will you create now that you know the system works? How will your mastery lead you maybe to a gravitational pull towards service?
Something to think about until our next deep dive.